Let's talk about the best time to convert an IRA to a Roth. So, I'm a big fan of Roth IRAs. You get tax free growth, tax free withdrawals, there's no required minimum distributions. They're great accounts. Now, the thing about a rollover, the only drawback, you have to pay taxes on the amount that you convert. So let's look at some of the best times to convert. My name is Scott Caulfield. I'm a CPA and a CFA charter holder, and I am the founder of Sophos Wealth Management. So the biggest item you're going to look at is whether your current tax rate is lower than your future tax rate. Pretty simple. Now, this is going to really depend on two things, right? First is your taxable income. Is your taxable income today lower than in the future? Then, with no changes in the tax code, it might be advantageous to convert. Your tax rate today will be lower than the future when your taxable income's higher. But there is a second component that is far more complex, and that is what future tax rates are going to look like. Um, Now, currently, thanks to the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, we are set to revert to 2017 tax rates at the end of 2025, meaning tax rates are going to go up for everybody pretty much. In addition to that, if you kind of look at the overall fiscal situation, you look at where our federal deficits are at, if you look at just overall debt to GDP, it's pretty clear things are unsustainable right now. So I think it's a good bet that future tax rates, on average, will be higher than current tax rates. Now, further backing this up, if you look at the history of marginal tax rates in the US, at least the top federal tax rates have been much higher historically. In fact, for much of the period from, say, 1930s through about 1980, the highest marginal tax rate for high earners in the US was often over 70%. So drastically higher than those rates are today. Um, Another factor that kind of can make for a good timing to convert is if you expect significant future investment growth. Often this happens after a big correction in the stock market. So you kind of get two benefits here. Big correction in the stock market typically means your portfolio has taken a hit. So the amount that you convert, you're going to pay less taxes on because it's a smaller amount. And then your expected future returns are higher. So it's advantageous not to pay taxes on that much higher future amount. If you think back to, say, 2009, if your portfolio had kind of taken a hit from '07 to '09 and you did a conversion then, all the growth that has happened from '09 till today would be tax free. And if you were to take all that money out, you would not pay any taxes on it. So that would have been a very advantageous time to have done a conversion. Now, part of that investment growth too is just how long you can leave that money in there. There's not a lot of point in converting if then over the next couple of years you're going to just take distributions out of that. Another thing that you're going to think of in terms of these conversions is whether it makes sense to do it all at once or if you want to spread it out, do partial conversions. Now, in practice, I see kind of two times that make sense for people to convert. Younger people, say you're leaving a job or something like that, younger people are typically on the low end of their long-term taxable earnings. As their career progresses, their future taxable income is going to be much higher. So it can often make sense for them to just go ahead and pay taxes on what is often a smaller balance in an IRA and do the conversion now so that they get tax-free growth in the future. There's also kind of a golden opportunity for those in that 60 to 70 age range. You are, especially if you're already retired, you've got a lot of levers you can pull tax-wise. You can delay Social Security. You don't have any required minimum distributions or RMDs from your IRAs. So you can kind of play with your income and you can plug in some taxable income by doing partial conversions for a few of those years between 60 and 70 if you no longer have wage income. So there's kind of a lot you can do planning wise there. I do want to bring up a big note of caution. And, it's kind of the idea, hey, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. So I remember back, I was talking with a CPA, we had a mutual client, and we were discussing whether we should do a Roth conversion for a client who was interested in it. And he said he almost never recommends Roth conversions. And I said, that seems odd. Like, what's the rationale there? He said, I just never want my clients to voluntarily pay taxes. We don't know what the future is going to look like. Tax rates are a political decision. They could easily go up. So why should we voluntarily pay taxes that are not required today? Um, it just doesn't advise it. And I think, there is some wisdom there. Um, you have to keep in mind that we don't know the future tax code. In fact, if you look back a couple years ago when Congress was coming up with the Build Back Better Act, one of the proposals there was an RMD on Roth IRA accounts. Well, on Roths and just all accounts, regardless of age, for both high net worth individuals, so whether that's high earner or people with high balances. So that would have been an RMD regardless of age. So you could be 40, but if you had a big enough balance in your retirement accounts, or if you were a high enough earner, you would have had to have done RMDs from Roths and other accounts, regardless of age. So you never know. The tax benefits in a Roth could also be means tested in the future. I don't know if these are going to happen or not, but I think you have to discount the potential future tax savings given the fact that there are uncertainties whether those will still be there or not. So yeah, that's something to take into account. I think if you're considering a Roth conversion, you want to do a lot of projections. This is where financial professionals can really come in handy. Does it make sense to do a full conversion? Does it make sense to do a partial conversion? Do you have the money elsewhere to pay the taxes? So if you've got a $200,000 account, it'd be nice to roll the whole $200,000 into the Roth and not have to set some aside for taxes. So hopefully you have other money set aside for those taxes. All things to kind of consider when you're doing this. The math, especially for those in that kind of 60 to 70 age range, can get pretty complex. But again, there's a lot of benefits to having money in a Roth, so it's nice when you can do it. I'm always happy to talk to you about your situation. If you'd like to reach out, and feel free to like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys tuning in.